Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing reading on Cyntoia Brown. And I know a lot of you have asked many months ago for me to do this. It was on my list. Like I said, I do hear out my rays of light, and I hope that you enjoy this. Now, I had time to actually sit down through this pandemic, and actually today I spent my day off really just looking at the documentary on Netflix. So if you have not checked it out, I definitely would check it out. It's my understanding that they did not ask permission to do this, but I don't think like Netflix does that, like even with, you know, the Tiger King series and all of that. I don't think they've, asked permission or whatever. But let me just tell you, it was very emotional to look at that documentary because, or whatever you would call that. I think it was it's like a docuseries, or not docuseries, but a documentary on Cyntoia Brown. It covers the case, and again, it's on Netflix. So I'm going to give you the tea of, this is going to be like psychic insights that I see now, but I'm also going to go back and give you the little bit of backstory for those of you that are my rays of light or new followers to my channel or new viewers that are not familiar with the story of Cyntoia Brown. Basically, this is a 16-year-old girl at the time. She is now in her 30s, who was being pimped out and sexually abused, raped, and just basically being pimped out in many ways by her abuser, who was much older than her. And in an act of self-defense, she grabbed the gun and shot him because she was ultimately very scared that he was going to grab a gun and kill her, or hurt her in some kind of way. At the time when this happened in the state of Tennessee, so I believe this was like in Tennessee where it happened. I'm not familiar with where exactly it happened, but just to give you a little bit of background on it, in the state where this all happened, you can research it, as you're listening. The thing is that they tried her and they sent her into the juvenile system, if I'm not mistaken, and then immediately into the adult system. So this girl was tried as an adult and was sentenced to like I don't remember the amount of sentencing, but I think it was like life in prison or maybe 50-year sentence. I'm not familiar with the whole case, but I tried to pay attention as much as I could. The whole thing here was that this poor girl was just a girl. She was just a child. And she was tried as an adult and not given a fair chance to be productive in society because they viewed her as a threat. Now, this is not insight that I'm giving you, just a little bit of backstory, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my own opinion here before I get into the insight as, the current Cyntoia Brown. Now, fast forward, for those of you that are not aware, they did grant her clemency. So she got out of prison. And this was like in 2019, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But she is out now, and she is married to this handsome young man that you see here. And he's in the music industry, whatnot. So going back to the actual the past, I feel like the judge, the people that, she did the appeals to, a lot of these people were very unfair. And I feel like, again, we see, a young black girl or mixed girl, being tried unjustly when, she was an act of self-defense. Now, some people will negate that or not, but you have to understand, this was a 16-year-old girl. And at the time, the system did not see it as human trafficking, or, that the attacker, the pimp that, was using her, was exploiting this child. That is a big crime, and this child was trying to get away from this, and she was a runaway. So, she was already a runaway, and she came up from a broken system, but she had her adopted mother, I believe, or I can't remember, but I remember that they did put her on the documentary as well. The whole thing here is that it was a horrible experience. Horrible. And this young girl spent the remainder of her young adulthood in the prison system. She got her associate's degree, and then she went on to get a bachelor's degree, and she went on to try and prove herself. And she had one last time to appeal, if I'm not mistaken, and that's when she was granted clemency. But a lot of people were already advocating, a lot of celebrities and people were advocating for her to get out of this whole, accusations and things that, the charges that were brought up against her. It's something that she's going to have to live with forever. And no child should have to live with that. I'm not saying that she was right in pulling the trigger and doing that. But a lot of people sometimes do things in an act and a desperation to, for self-defense. It's in the human instinct. And when I look at her, this is, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not asking for anybody to agree with me, but I don't see the eyes of a serial killer. I do not see the eyes of a cold-blooded murderer. That's why I feel like this girl is innocent in many ways. And maybe not innocent since she did admit to it, but on some level, she had to defend herself. I believe her on so many levels. And you can look at a person's eyes and their energy and their aura, and you can see, the fact that if they are a dark soul. And I don't see that. I don't. And I feel like at the time that she was, tried as an adult at 16, she was put into the court systems as a juvenile, then transferred, however that all worked. I'm not going to get on to that. But I do feel like she was really going through some psychological issues. There's got to be like post-traumatic stress. There's got to be anxiety. You could just see it in her face in the interviews and those excerpts that they put into the Netflix series, Netflix documentary. You can see the level of angst that this young girl had, and how the prosecutors or the actual investigators, when they read your Miranda rights and they take you in and cross-examine, it was found out that they had tricked her because she was a 16-year-old. She didn't know about the legal system that well. And the fact that they sat her down and they told her that she wanted to make a plea bargain or some kind of plea, or a deal with those people, that if she confessed to what had happened and told them the story, that they would go ahead and give her less time. But the fact that they, her group of attorneys and stuff, when they went this last time, they brought all that facts up to the present, that, a lot of what had happened initially was not right, that they did lie, and they did promise her something under false pretenses, and then they did absolutely nothing to protect her from a lengthy sentence for the crime. Now, I'm not excusing that she took, a man's life, but in the fact that this was self-defense. This is, again, a girl. This is the case that we're looking at. It's a girl who was being raped and pimped out. Do you know what pimps do? Have y'all not seen a lot of the Tyler Perry movies? Or have you not seen or heard about this on, the TV shows that we see? Pimps are people who are very ruthless. They don't care. They use women and sometimes men that are minors, and they go and let them have sex with adult people for money, and they get that money because, again, they are pimping out. This is child abuse. This is sexual child abuse. This is human trafficking in so many ways. It just boggles my mind that the justice system couldn't see that, or they didn't want to see it. And again, we go back to this young, I'm going to call her African-American girl, because even though she is mixed, to me she looks mixed, but she is a sister. So, the fact here is that she wasn't tried justly. I don't feel like they gave her an opportunity maybe to be productive, maybe less sentencing, less of a sentence. They sentenced her to many, many, many years, and no chances possibly ever of parole, of ever getting out of that if they would have had their way. So my understanding is that before this judge, that they went before, before he was about to retire, whatever, they appealed, and however the situation is, she got clemency and she got released. And now she's written a book, and there's been so much support from a lot of people for her. There's a lot of people that don't like her. I can imagine that the guy that she killed, his family has to be very angry and upset, or relatives have to be very upset about this. And in some level, they may have a lot of anger that they would want to do something against Cyntoia. All right, so that's kind of like the backstory, a little bit of my own opinions. Now I'm going to get into the insight of this reading. Now, as I see her now, as an adult and a release, there's this newfound freedom. She's like catching up with everything that she missed out on early in her life. So in many ways, I still feel like she still has that inner child inside of her, and it's wanting to come out in so many ways, and she's elated and happy to be out. But at the same time, I see her walking away from opportunities. These are people that are approaching her for like book deals, for movie deals, for things like that for her. And I feel like at this point she wants to take some time to enjoy herself, not be immersed in work like people are wanting her to get into. Of course, she has a story to tell, and her voice is going to be used. I'm a firm believer that God used this child in so many ways to come to earth, and her soul volunteered for this path that she underwent all of this trauma early on, because this story was going to help elevate human consciousness. It was going to help open the eyes of humanity about human trafficking and sexual abuse, and how it's very real. And to this day, there are pimps out there doing the same thing that her attacker would have done to her. Okay. And it's got to stop. All of this has got to stop. And I do feel like it is coming to a point now where, our divine source, God, whoever you want to call it, is making sure that these perpetrators and these individuals that have such evil in their heart and such perversion are being caught and taken off of the streets like they are, like it's supposed to be. They're supposed to be gone from the streets, like, because again, they're doing so much damage to our youth and to women. Like, she is a voice for many women out there who have maybe have been in her situation and are still maybe struggling with those things that they endured as a child, as a young child. 16 is still a child. That is not an adult. And so I see for her, a lot of communication. I do feel like this partner is definitely a soulmate to her, but I feel like, he also is her protector in so many ways, and that he came in as a protector with true love for her. But I see her communicating, throughout the remainder of 2020, 2021, and 2022. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of questions whether or not she's going to have a child of her own. I feel like deep down she wants to have a child, but I feel like there may be some problems in the reproductive system. So we'll have to see whether or not she will fall pregnant, or if she even wants that. Because again, there's just so much questions about, having a child. Would fears that child would go through the same thing that she went through on some level. But I do feel like she is destined in this lifetime to have a child, whether it's natural or it's adopted, whatever. I do see that for her. I also feel like there's some deep emotional fulfillment where she's going to start standing more in her power as a woman in her 40s. And I feel like right now in her 30s, it's more about like reclaiming the inner child. But in the 40s, I feel like she's going to be more standing in the position of a mom and more of the womanhood, embracing that. There's a lot of planning. I feel like there's traveling that she wants to do alongside with her partner. But I do want to say that I do see that throughout all of her life, there is going to be struggles. And that's like for anyone. We all have, no one's life is super perfect. We all have some struggles here and there, but I do feel like Cyntoia is going to have some heartache. There is some heartache on in the future, and I feel like her and her current partner, they may end up separating, and I do feel like she may end up connecting with somebody that would be Caucasian. Now, I don't know why, but again, I never ask Spirit the reasons why they give me the information that they do, but I do give it out to people. But I do feel like there are going to be problems between Cyntoia and the gentleman that she's with right now, which is her husband. I do feel like he may have a wandering eye. He is in the entertainment industry, although they do love each other, although they are soulmates. Soulmates in this lifetime are not always meant to be together. And this is what makes me believe that even though he is invested in her in some areas, I feel like she is wanting true love and wanting, a family, and wants it all, but also doesn't know exactly what she wants because she was imprisoned for so many years. But I feel like he is opening her eyes to a whole new world around her, a world that may be kind of good for her, but at the same time, a world that's good for her, but at the same time, it may be kind of frustrating for her in some level, because again, there's a lot of people speculating, people wanting to know what she went through, and seeing her in some ways, she kind of also will go through self-sabotage, because in any relationship or any moments of happiness, she's kind of thinking to herself, these people don't see me as Cyntoia Brown Long. They see me as Cyntoia Brown, the criminal. And so that's some inner peace and inner healing that she's going to have throughout this lifetime. And I think that's the greatest lesson and purpose for her in this lifetime, is to make peace with herself and the actions and forgive herself. I feel like on some level she has forgiven herself for this life that she took. But again, this is a very deep and very very difficult life path that she chose, because she has to live with that. I've never, I could never understand, and I don't know if many of you could really understand, only if people, that are listening to this that have, maybe have gone through a family member being taken out, and or maybe they had a family member that did this like she did in self-defense. Only those people would probably understand what she's going through on a very deep level. So I can't sit here and say that I fully understand what Cyntoia is going through emotionally, but on a spiritual level, I can see it. And I feel like she's very resilient, and she's going to bounce back. But at some point, she's going to feel trapped, because it's like a stigma that follows you throughout your whole life, that people are always judging you. And I see that she's going to come out of that. But again, it's with years of wisdom and with years of experience and being out in the world. And this is what she needed. Her soul was meant to be set free from the prison system, because of the fact that in many ways it was an act in self-defense. And she already served she served time. I don't remember how many years, but it was like 15 years she served the time that she was in the system. I see a move for her. So wherever she's moving, I feel like throughout her life, there's going to be this theme as well of moving, not so much for fear, but always moving, and not staying or sticking to a certain place. Maybe when she's a little in her 40s, like late 40s, she'll stay in a certain place. But I feel like there is movement, a lot of movement, and I do get that. I also feel like this child is, well, I call her child, but she's an adult now, but she is very intuitive. I feel like she has her own spiritual gifts, and the trauma that she went through in this prison system, and through the the pimp that attacked her and all this, that there would have been an awakening for her. She has gone in through a deep spiritual awakening to the humanity and how the system, the justice system, operates. Not every justice system is equal. Not every justice system is the same. Even though we live in a society, in a time frame, in a state of consciousness where everything should be the same and everybody should be held to the same account, for their crimes, we find in the justice system the flaws that we saw in her case, where people that children are tried as adults and not given a second chance to be in society and to rectify their mistakes. Like if there's a lot of people that have done what she did in self-defense, and they got like home arrest. And it's out there. If you look at it, it's out there. They get house arrest for maybe a year or two, and then they're released, maybe on parole or whatever in the system. But she actually was just in prison. So she has yet a lot to fulfill. Her destiny is not finished. It's not completely written. I feel like she will go on to continue to support women's rights and be a great pillar of strength for the African American community and all women who have maybe gone through similar circumstances. And I also feel like there's more talent to her eventually, maybe even going into acting or being playing a role in a movie or some kind of docuseries of the actual, her actual character of who she really is, as a person. So we'll see. The sky's the limit. I also feel like she may have, some goals in entertainment industry, like music, like musician. She may want to sing. I'm not sure if she could, but I feel like there is something around there. Maybe it's like songwriting, but there is something there as well. But the sky's the limit, and I wish her all the best. And I hope that there is healing for everyone that is affected by this story, or who has ever gone through any kind of sexual abuse, or have had any family members gone through human trafficking. That is a serious issue in this society, in this world, that we need to address, and we need to end it. So big angel hugs, blessings, and love and light. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please follow me on Instagram at Psychic Medium Ray, and also be sure to go ahead and subscribe to my website. It's www.raymondguzman.net. So you can be added to my waiting list if you'd like a private psychic reading. Again, I will be opening up all of my private psychic readings on May 15th. However, if you would like to book an emergency reading because you can't wait a couple more days, you're more than welcome to. That's the only readings I'm doing now. Blessings and love and light. Have an amazing day or night wherever you are in the world. Bye.